you guys, welcome back to my channel. Happy New Year, or New Year's Eve, I guess I should say. Very exciting video for you guys today. I know I say that a lot, but truly today is like my favorite video of the year. I am sharing with you guys my 2021 awards for eyeshadow palettes. I've gone through all the eyeshadow palettes that I have tried out newly this year, along with a couple older favorites that I've continued to use and love throughout the year, and I've got some awards to hand out. This was very tricky. You guys know how I feel about my eyeshadow palettes. I'm very attached to all of them. It was very hard to pick a winner in each of these categories, so just know going into this that all of the nominations are winners in my book. I love all of these palettes very much, but I'm going to share with you guys the very best of the best. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I've got some really fun awards to hand out, or categories. I know a lot of you are eyeshadow palette lovers as well. I'd love for you to make a game of this. See how many you get right. I think some of these might surprise you. Some of them even surprised me, and I kind of went back and forth, and I'm still second guessing a few of them, but no, we're going to just go with it. I'm already talking too much. We've got a lot to get into. We will jump into it, but before we do, special welcome to any of you that are new to my channel. Thank you for joining me today. Very happy to have you here. I hope that you'll consider subscribing before you leave, and also make sure the notification bell is turned on if you'd like to be notified every time I upload a new video. We have some fun videos coming up in 2022. I predict it's going to be a good year, and even if it's not, makeup is always fun, so there's always makeup to look forward to. But with that very long intro out of the way, let's get into the awards. All right, you guys, I have got my little fake envelope here, which coincidentally or not coincidentally matches my nails. I mean, that is like new levels. Mandy, the sparkly black. I actually didn't do that on purpose. It was fate. In case you missed my last awards that I have done throughout the month, basically how this works is within each award that I'm handing out, I'll have 3 nominations, and I'll select from those 3 nominations. So basically I picked my top 3 in each category. I just wanted to emphasize one more time, in an effort to not hurt anyone's feelings, and I'm talking about my palettes more than you guys. Let's kick it off with my first award, which is the Affordability Award. You guys know I love my affordable makeup in general, but especially eyeshadow palettes. I have 3 nominations. By the way, these are each groupings of palettes. They're not an individual palette. They're like a brand or a series of palettes. And those nominations are the Wet n Wild Color Icon palettes, the Essence 6-Pan palettes, and the ColourPop quads. And the winner for the Affordability Award for 2021 goes to the Wet n Wild Color Icon palettes. Here they are. I have them all. It's actually been a while since I've talked about these. I raved about these like crazy for the first 6 months of the year. I have not forgotten about them. I do still think these are amazing, especially when considering them as a whole. I think these are some of the best bang for your buck palettes out there. I love all of them. I've tried them all multiple times, so I'm very familiar with all of these different palettes. They do have the 5 pans and the 10 pans. I think they're both great. They're both super affordable. I think these ones are about $5.99. These ones are about $3.99. If I did have to throw out a couple favorites, probably those would go to this one right here, which is the Go Commando. I love this gold inside here. It is absolutely fantastic. So beautiful. Great formulas as well. I also love this smaller palette if you're into greens, which you know that I am. Actually, I almost had a green category. I think I took it out because I thought that was a little much. This is a great little green palette. I love this center shade. It's a really interesting formula that kind of reminds me a little bit of a Natasha Denona, like a mix between a metallic and a Natasha Denona cream to powder formula. It's kind of creamy, but look at that color and just shine. It's so pretty. Also love the Call Me Sunshine palette. If you're into bronzes, this has every perfect shade of bronze that you could ever want. They're all great. There's some better ones if you like more just very basic neutrals. As much as I love the Essence palettes and those ColourPop quads, these are easily the winner for 2021. Next category is the Best Small Palette of 2021. The nominations for this one go to the Nabla Cutie Analog palette, the Natasha Denona Mini Retro palette, and the Essence Dancing Green palette. And the winner for the Best Mini Eyeshadow Palette of 2021 goes to the Natasha Denona Mini Retro palette. This one was pretty hard as well, but I have to hand it to this little palette. You guys probably know if you've been watching me throughout the year, I've really expanded my Natasha Denona collection, especially with these mini palettes, and I've come to really love them, particularly this one right here. Now, I think I tried this one out technically in 2020, towards the end of 2020, but it really grew on me this last year, and I used this thing like crazy. Anytime I traveled anywhere, this thing came with me every time. It's such a perfectly curated palette that has such beautiful neutral but not too neutral shades that go with anything. I love them so much. I love this matte green. I love this kind of silvery green right here. It's kind of a mid-tone. I love this sparkly lid shade. It looks so pretty on the eyes. This is just such a perfect palette. I know this thing's a little pricey. This is $25 and the shades are quite small. And I know on first glance this might look kind of like plastic Wet n Wild type packaging. Trust me, it's not. It's much more fancy. It feels a lot more high-end. When you handle this, you definitely will feel the quality of the packaging, even though it doesn't look super fancy. My next award is for the best high-end palette of 2021. Oh, this is a big award. And the nominations for this one go to the Pat McGrath Mothership Midnight Sun palette, the Patrick Ta Major Dimensions palette, and the Natasha Denona Zendo palette. And the winner of the best high-end palette for 2021 goes to the Pat McGrath Mothership palette. Oh, you guys, this was the category that was probably the hardest. I really went back and forth between this and the retro palette. I love the retro palette. Really, the only thing I really hold against this palette is the price. It's ridiculously expensive. $125 retail price, which I know is absolutely insane, but the more I've used this, you guys, the more I've come to appreciate the formulas in here, which are perfectly spot on. They're fantastic. And also, what a perfect color story this is. You get every basic you would need in here, a really dark, kind of cooler brown. You get the perfect transition shade for me, but I imagine this would work for a lot of different skin tones. You also get a nice red. I always love a good red if I want something different in my outer corner as a transition. Then you get a lot of really beautiful, extremely shiny and glitzy lid shades, including some color like this purple, this gold, this bronze, that green. It is such a good one. I've talked a lot about this shade right here, which is absolutely stunning and beautiful and sparkly if you like very glittery shades. I was uncertain about this one because of its price tag, and I don't know that I definitely wouldn't recommend going into debt to buy this palette, because there are good palettes out there that are a fraction of the price, but now that I have it and I've tried it, I can appreciate why so many people love Pat McGrath, because they are very nice. The next award is for the Colorful Palette of 2021. The nominations for the Best Colorful Palette of 2021 go to the BH Cosmetics Miss Claus Palette, the Pat McGrath Celestial Odyssey Palette, and the BH Cosmetics Blueberry Muffin Palette. And the winner of the Best Colorful Palette from 2021 goes to the Pat McGrath Celestial Odyssey palette. I know I just said this about the last category, but truly these two categories were the ones I had the hardest time picking between. I was this close to picking the BH Cosmetics Miss Claus palette, but I have to give the award again to Pat McGrath. This is just such a beautiful palette, and it is a little bit more affordable than the full-priced Mothership palettes. This one retailed for $78, and I did get mine for about 25% off. It's a very well done, colorful palette that's not too colorful. I would wear every color inside here. I've probably worn most of these already. I've dipped into this palette a lot over the last month and a half. I know that's not a lot of time, but this seriously impressed me from the moment I first tried it out. That said though, the BH Cosmetics Miss Claus palette really impressed me as well. In fact, these two were neck and neck. The biggest thing holding me back with that one is I do think the quality is a little bit less nice than the Pat McGrath, which you probably expect considering the price difference. But other than that, the biggest thing is the packaging. I'm just not a fan of the look of the BH Cosmetics Christmas palette packages, even though I love those palettes so very much. And this palette is packaged beautifully. It is cardboard packaging, but it's still really nice. It feels very high quality. Definitely pay for it. So those of you that are on a budget, I would definitely recommend the BH Cosmetics one. That one's going to give you just as much variety. There's a lot of shine in that one as well, a lot of beautiful sparkly shades, and even a lot more neutrals. This one just feels a little bit fancier, and the quality is a little bit better, so I'm going to give it to this one. The next award is for the Best Berry Tone Palette of 2021. I tried out a lot of berry tones this year, so I wanted to have a specific award for this color range. And the nominations for Berry Tone Palette go to the Natasha Denona Retro Palette, the Alter Ego Luster Charm Palette, and the Juvia's Place The Mauves Palette. And the winner for the Berry Tone Palette of 2021 goes to the Natasha Denona Retro Palette. If you are into berry tones in any way, this is the most perfectly done berry tone palette I think I've ever tried. I love my berry tones. I'm very picky about pinks and purples. I don't like bold pinks and I don't like bold purples, which is why I love berry tones. Like, it's kind of walks that line between a pink and a purple so well, and this palette is full of every type of shade like that you could imagine. You get a ton of lid shades in here that are all just a little bit different. I love that it includes a matte ivory, lots of great outer corner shades. You even get some cool tones and taupes in here as well. It's a beautifully curated palette. The color range in here is really nice. You don't get a lot of redundancy, which you can sometimes with these palettes get some shades that are very similar to each other. While every look that comes out of this is going to obviously be berry toned, if you like your berry tones, this gives you a lot of variety of berry tones that are perfect in every way. Great formulas in here as well. You guys know I love the Natasha Denona formula, and I've been thrilled with this palette this last year. The next category is for the most impressive formula from 2021, and my nominations for impressive formula for 2021 go to Sydney Grace, Natasha Denona, and Patrick Ta. And the winner for most impressive formula of 2021 goes to Patrick Ta. Okay, once again, this one was very hard. I promise that's the last time I'll say that. Maybe. I might say it one more time. I love Sydney Grace's formula. I love Natasha Denona's formula. But this Patrick Ta palette that I tried out this year is a very different formula than anything that I've ever tried, which is the main reason this one's getting an award today. There are so many unique formulas and textures inside this palette that really just surprised me. I don't know what I was expecting when I first tried this out. In fact, this is a palette that confused me, which is why it took me so long to try it. These cream shades in the corner that are kind of like cream bronzers. They are so cool to use on your eyes. They give you this really different texture in your outer corner that just looks a little bit different. It's been a really fun one to play with. I love the metallics. They're a little bit more creamy and foiled, almost flaky. They have a different reflective quality to them. He also gives you a couple of these kind of sparkly mattes that remind me a lot of the Tati Beauty Sequin formula. Really fun palette. If you like warm neutrals and different textures, this is such a great one and one of the most unique formulas that I tried out this year. My next award is the Slow Burn Award. So these are the palettes that sometimes, this happens to me quite a bit. Sometimes I'll try out a palette and I'm not initially sure how I feel about it, but the more I use it, I gradually kind of fall deeply in love with it. And that happens to me quite often actually. So my nominations for the Slow Burn palette of 2021 are the Pat McGrath Mothership Midnight Sun palette, the Sydney Grace Temptalia On the Horizon palette, and the Nabla Side by Side palette. And the winner for the Slow Burn palette of 2021 goes to the Sydney Grace Temptalia On the Horizon palette. I bet I tricked you guys with this one because I did not give these the most glowing review when I first tried them out, mainly because the packaging, I just really did not like the packaging on these. I still don't love the packaging on these. Charlie loves it. That's my 4-year-old daughter. She thinks this is like the funnest packaging ever. This one is the On the Horizon palette. This one is a close second though. I actually feel very similarly about both of these. In fact, I'm wanting to maybe pick up the third one that came along with this set. So initially the packaging was a strike against these. Also, these are full of very colorful shades. I mean, they're not like way colorful, but there's not a lot of neutrals inside here. And I wondered if that would be kind of a strike against these as well. But the more I've used these, the more I deeply love the looks that come out of particularly this palette. I mean, if I had to pick a favorite, I'd pick this one, but these are kind of neck and neck. So I'm going to show you this one as well. Maybe this is cheating. So here they both are. I know they look somewhat similar. I actually love them both for different reasons, but I think this would be my number one because I think this has the most muted jewel tone colors in it. I love this palette so much. I have created some of the most beautiful looks, like my favorite looks of the year have come out of this palette right here. You know I love Sydney Grace. Her formula is among one of my very, very favorites of all time, especially her metallic formula. It is done so well, so reflective. I mean, just look at some of these shades. I mean, that is just nuts. Isn't that just crazy? They're so beautiful, but they're not overly bright or overly colorful. But you definitely could get bright and colorful if that's where you wanted to go. Beautiful, beautiful palette, beautiful formulas. These ones have really grown on me. And especially this one right here, easily worthy of the Slow Burn Award. My next award is the Love at First Sight Award. I guess this is the reverse of the Slow Burn Award. Occasionally I'll come across a palette that I fall in love with almost instantly. And if it's not Love at First Sight, it's Love at First Swatch. This is a lot more rare of an occurrence for me, but I do have 3 nominations. And those 3 nominations for the Love at First Sight Award go to the Essence Dancing Green palette, the Pat McGrath Celestial Odyssey palette, and the ColourPop Off Melrose palette. And the winner of the Love at First Sight Award goes to the Essence Dancing Green palette. So quite the price difference between this and the Pat McGrath one. I mean, that's a $78 palette. This is like a $3.99 palette. But I'm telling you guys, if you didn't see the video where I tried this out for the first time, it was very obvious that I fell quickly in love with this thing. This is such an impressive little $3 or $4 palette. I loved all the palettes that came in this set, but this one in particular, you know I love my greens, but I like my greens to be a certain way, and this has every variety or type of green that I could ever want. You get a transition shade in here. The richness of this outer corner shade is just mind-boggling. It actually feels a lot like some of my favorite dark greens from Sydney Grace. Look at that, you guys. I mean, that's just insane. It's not too green. It's nice and rich. Formula is really nice and easy to blend. You also get an ivory in here. You get some beautiful lid shades, both lighter and darker. Just swatch these for you guys. I mean, this palette I knew needed an award this year. I wasn't sure where I would give it an award. In fact, you could probably say I came up with this award just so this palette could get one. And Love at First Sight most perfectly describes this thing. Definitely a great bang for your buck. And honestly, even if this thing was like $18, $20, I still think I would love it because it's that good. Next award is for the Top Neutral Palette of 2021. And my nominations for the Best Neutral Palette of 2021 go to the BH Cosmetics Hangin' in Hawaii palette, the Patrick Ta Major Dimension palette, and the Nabla Side by Side palette. And the winner for the Top Neutral Palette of 2021 goes to the Nabla Side by Side palette. This palette was nominated in my Slow Burn Award because I didn't instantly fall in love with this. I tried this one out. I liked it. I thought it was pretty impressive. And then it sat on a shelf for several months. In fact, when did I try this one out? It might have been the end of last year. I think it was. I think it was like last November. Sat on my shelves for a couple of months, and then I picked it back up in the early spring of this year and really started to get some use out of this and come to really appreciate how nice this palette is. You get some really great formulas in here. This is actually kind of a big year for Nabla and me. I also fell in love with a lot of her cutie palettes. I'm a big fan of those palettes. I have 4 of them now, and I think they're all fantastic. The Nabla formula is really nice because you get a variety of different finishes and formula types in here. It actually kind of reminds me of Natasha Denona in that similar way, especially when it comes to her shimmers. They are not all the same formula. Some of them are a little bit more smoothing, some of them are a little bit more sparkly, some of them are a little bit more just true metallics. And that's what makes this palette so special, is the variety of finishes in here. Great neutrals. You get both warm and cool tones. You even get a black and a deep brown, cool and warm. If you like neutral palettes that have a mix of warm and cool and you like a variety of finishes, this is going to be the perfect palette for you and an easy winner for 2021. Next award is for the Best Dupe Palette of 2021. And my nominations for the Best Dupe Palette go to the Alter Ego Luster Charm Palette, the Alter Ego Canyon Palette, and the Alter Ego Shadow Kiss Palette. And the winner of the Best Dupe Palette of 2021 goes to the Alter Ego Shadow Kiss Palette. You guys probably know how much I love these Alter Ego palettes. So they do some dupe palettes mostly for Natasha Denona, and then the Luster Charm palette, that one's meant to be a dupe for, I think it's the Pat McGrath Mothership Divine Rose palette. But the winner's got to be the Shadow Kiss. This one is meant to dupe the Natasha Denona Glam palette, which I think I crowned as my #1 palette of 2020. I'm a big fan of the Natasha Denona Glam palette. It's hard to come by a really well done cool tone palette that's not too ashy, that's not too small, that gives you plenty of variety without redoing the same shade over and over again. And Natasha Denona did just that. They gave you the perfect cooler tone palette. This is such a fantastic dupe for that palette. The formulas, the shades are nearly identical. I do think Natasha Denona's formulas are just a little bit more rich, a little bit more pigmented, but you can easily get the exact same looks out of these palettes if you're willing just to build things up a tiny bit more. I also love the Alter Ego packaging. While it's not quite as nice as the Natasha Denona packaging, for being more cardboard type packaging, it's really well done and feels really nice and high end. My next award is the Still Relevant palette of 2021. So these are basically some older palettes that I've continued to love during 2021. And my nominations for the Still Relevant award go to the Persona Identity palette, the Sydney Grace Enduring Love palette, and the Juvia's Place Nomad palette. And the winner for the Still Relevant award goes to the Sydney Grace Enduring Love palette. I can't not give an award to this palette. I think this still might possibly, I don't want to make it too official yet, but this might still be my very favorite palette of all time. Oh, I just am so in love with this. I love how large the shades are in here. I mean, that's probably the last thing that I love about it. Even if they were small, I'd still love it. But the formulas, the colors, this is such a well done palette. If you like metallics, which I definitely do, this is just beautiful. This is the palette that really sold me on Sydney Grace. I tried this out, I think about 2, maybe 3 years ago. And that was after hearing a lot of people in passing mention how nice Sydney Grace eyeshadows were. So I thought, okay, I'll give this palette a try. And holy cow, you guys, talk about a palette that was love at first sight. I know I already gave an award to Essence for that, but if we're talking of all time, nothing could beat my instant love for this palette right here. This is like my soulmate palette. Ah, that would have been a good name for an award. I just love this so much. I've talked about this green recently, which is more of like a silver, I guess, than a green, but it's stunning. I love this one, which is a little bit less metallic and just kind of like a more smoothing shimmer. This metallic right here is stunning. I love all these kind of transition shades in here. I mean, I know you can't really see these. Let's just do a quick little swatch on the back of my hand. Oh, look at that. They are fantastic. If you have still not tried Sydney Grace out, I don't know what else to say. What's taking you so long? Save up your money and try it out during her next sale. You will not be disappointed. They are so fantastic, and this palette, such a great one, very relevant. I shouldn't say just still relevant, still amazing. That brings us to my last award, and that is for the top brand of 2021. So similarly with formulas, that one was really just more about the formula inside an individual palette. The nominations for this one are the brands as a whole that really impressed me during this last year. And the nominations for the best brand of 2021 go to Sydney Grace, BH Cosmetics, and Natasha Denona. And the award for top brand of 2021 goes to Sydney Grace. I know I just got done raving about Sydney Grace. Perhaps I should have spaced out those two awards a little bit more, but that's okay. I'm going to just talk a little bit more about them. They are my #1 brand. They have some fantastic palettes. I think the way I ended up feeling about these two right here kind of solidified this award for me. And in addition to that, all the singles from Sydney Grace that I have, I know, show off much. I feel slightly more shame than pride in the fact that I own pretty much every single that Sydney Grace has. It's taken me a couple years to build up to owning all of these. I bought them all with my own money. I have never been sponsored by Sydney Grace, but I am very happy to sell her products because I think they're so great. I just have some single palettes that I've kind of put together here. You could not go wrong with any of her formulas. Her mattes are all great. I've never had trouble with a single one. I'm pretty sure that I've now used every shade of hers and they're all amazing. Her pressed pigment formula is the most metallic. Some more neutrals right here. I talk a lot about this shade right here, which is the shade Greatest Gift. I compare a lot of shades to this shade because it's such a unique duochrome that I really love. It's kind of a purpley green. Just look at some of the metallics inside here. Here's 3 more. Sorry, my hands are a little stained. I mean, they're just incredible. I don't know that there is a metallic out there that I like as much as I like the Sydney Grace metallics. Now, her formulas are pretty basic. You don't quite get the variety of finishes. You don't get a lot of glitter sparkle in her formulas, but they're just so beautifully metallic that I don't think you need it necessarily. So I guess what I'm trying to say, she doesn't have a variety of finishes, but the finishes that she has are so perfectly done. Like, she's really honed in and like perfected those. And I've yet to find a dud in her formulas that I don't just absolutely love. Oh, just look at all these. There's probably a few singles that are super colorful, kind of like this right here, or this yellow that I don't quite own yet. I know she has some magentas and pinks that I haven't gotten around to buying. I'm not sure that I will because I just don't reach for those shades too often. And now that I have these palettes when I want some color, who knows, maybe in 2022 I'll run out of things to buy from Sydney Grace, so maybe she won't win an award next year. But for this year, easily Sydney Grace, best eyeshadow brand of 2021 and perhaps every year for the rest of my life. That brings us to the end. Those are all of my eyeshadow awards for 2021. I hope you guys like this format. I know it was a little different. I actually felt kind of bad because I feel like some of my favorite palettes maybe didn't even get an award this year, which is why I keep emphasizing the fact that even the runners-up were award winners in my book. Let me know if you guys want to have me come back and do like my top 20 palettes of 2021 ranked, because that could be a little bit different, but if you feel like that'd be too redundant, either way, let me know down below. Do you guys want to see that? But I hope you guys enjoyed this. Hopefully it was a fun peek into the palettes that impressed me the most in 2021. Were you surprised by any of these? Were there some that didn't get mentioned that you were surprised by? Let me know down below. Also, if you want to let me know what some of your award winners were, I would love to hear it. I want to wish you all a very happy new year and give you guys a huge thank you. Thank you so much for supporting my channel throughout this last year. I know this last year was a little bit disorganized. Maybe this isn't something that you felt, but I feel like my channel struggled a little bit this year because I just was all over the place with COVID and with kids in school and everything going on. I haven't been as engaged as I've wanted to be. I'm hoping to do a little bit better this next year. We'll see how things go. But thank you guys so much for doing this. I really enjoy making videos for you guys. It's like my me time and I love sharing it with you. I appreciate you guys supporting me. Thank you guys again. Wishing you all a fantastic 2022. I do want to make one quick announcement. I'm not quite sure what I'm doing in January yet. I might do a different take on a full month of nothing new. I know that's what I've typically done in the past, but I did one in August and I feel like they're getting a little stale, my full month of nothing new, so I'm trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm not quite sure what that's going to look like yet. I'm toying around with a couple different ideas, but I hope you'll stay tuned. Let this be a reminder to subscribe if you haven't done that yet. Thank you guys again, and I will see you all very soon in my next video in the new year. Bye. Do I look like a crazy person? Like, is this excited or crazy? I kind of feel like it looks crazy. I used to hate filming thumbnail clips. I think it's super fun now. Like, you gotta let loose and have fun with it. Now, if somebody was like a fly on the wall, I'd feel very shameful, very embarrassed, but it's kind of fun, gotta be honest. Like, I love being fun and goofy, especially with my kids. And one of my favorite tricks that I used to do, I actually haven't done this for a while. I don't know that Charlie's seen this, but when we'd make boiled eggs, I'd get a piece of boiled egg and like cut out the shapes of teeth in the egg and like put them in kind of like an orange peel. Have these like crazy looking teeth and make faces at my kids. Also do the same thing with black beans on the tooth. Never gets old. Funniest thing ever, never gets old. Maybe someday I'll do it for you guys. The Patrick Ta Mothership palette. No. Wrong name.